Tuesday, April 30. This is the news on PBCJ. I am Simone Absalom. Prime Minister Andrew Holness hosted an emergency press conference at Jamaica House today.
Security forces have advised that the situation now currently exists would warrant the government advising the Governor General to proclaim a state of public emergency. His Excellency the Most Honorable Sir Patrick Linton Allen has declared that a state of public emergency exists in the community of the entire area comprising the parishes of St. James, Hanover, and Westmoreland. This proclamation shall, unless previously revoked, remain in place for 14 days or for such longer period, not exceeding 3 months, as both Houses of Parliament may determine by resolution supported by a 2/3 majority of all the members of each House.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness has declared that increased investments will be made to improve national security. Speaking at the opening of the new Lathbury Barracks office and accommodation at the Jamaica Defence Force Up Park camp, Holness said the government is recalibrating its efforts to restore order by making the necessary improvements. Against this background of clear and present threats affecting the country, the Prime Minister highlighted that 28% of the total capital budget has been allocated to national security. He said the JDF is a critical tool in dealing with unconventional threats to national security. Holness also lauded the men and women of the JDF for their selfless and effective discharge of duties during the states of public emergency, and also noted that the country is proud of their efforts. The National Water Commission (NWC) says mechanical problems linked to damaged equipment are affecting the flow of water from Hope Pastures and sections of St. Thomas. The NWC said the water supply will be suspended in sections of Hope Pastures community to carry out emergency repairs to the pipelines. Gibson Drive, Whitcomb Drive, Hope Boulevard and roads leading off will be experiencing low water or no water conditions until 6 p.m. today. Meanwhile, the restoration time for Albion Housing Estate, Sun Valley, Grand Spen and 11 miles in St. Thomas has not yet been determined. The company, in a release yesterday, said the damages are still being assessed and the public will be advised of the completed water supply repairs in their respective communities. The National Water Commission has said inflows to the Hermitage Dam in St. Andrew are now average less than half of the daily requirement. The NWC Corporate Public Relations Manager, Charles Buchanan, says supply from one of the 3 sources which feed the Hermitage Dam has dried up, while the other 2 sources have provided about 4 million gallons of water per day. However, he said more than twice as much is needed to keep the levels stable. Water levels at the Mona Reservoir and Hermitage Dam, which serve much of St. Andrew, are now in the region of 30% of capacity. Effective Sunday night, the NWC began imposing supply restrictions in the areas on your screen. The government is working to achieve 100% access to safe drinking water for all Jamaicans by 2030, while ensuring the stability of future supplies. The objective is in keeping with the National Development Plan, which aims to make Jamaica the place of choice to live, work, raise families, and do business. Program Director, Vision 2030 Jamaica Secretariat, Elizabeth Emmanuel, told JIS News that the vision for the water sector is to have an integrated, sustainable water resource development and management, along with adequate and safe water supply and sanitation to support economic and social development. She notes that while there has been a significant increase in the percentage of households with piped water, from 61% in 1990 to approximately 80.1% in 2015. Debate began on Friday in the Senate on the Food Storage and Prevention of Infestation Amendment Act. This bill is designed to improve the operational standards within the food industry to ensure that food is wholesome and safe for consumption. The bill was piloted by a minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Senator Pernell Charles Jr.
The amendments to the Principal Act will modernize the legislation in keeping with advancements in technologies and other changes while ensuring a clean and healthy environment for the transportation and storage of food. It will ensure the safety and wholesomeness of the food being consumed by all Jamaicans. And this, Mr. President, extends to the corner shop, the small cook shop, the supermarkets, the restaurants, hotels, everything across our country. Mr. President, the Principal Act sets out provisions directing persons who manufacture, store, or sell food as to the required conditions of their buildings. And this is in an effort to maintain hygienic conditions in the food industry. We don't have to go too far to understand the importance of that to all of us.
Charles Jr. pointed out that amendments to the bill have become necessary as the Principal Act is now outdated, having been enacted in 1958, and the supporting regulations passed in 1973.
The provisions are now outdated. And in keeping, Mr. President, with the government's thrust to improve the overall efficiency of the public sector through centralization and modernization, it is important that we update our laws. Mr. President, that is what we seek to do today. In this very critical area, might I add, of the food industry, which we can all agree is integral to the health of the nation.
In the end, following notable contributions from both government and opposition senators, Charles Jr. requested that the debate be suspended until the next sitting of the Senate so that these inputs can be considered. As Jamaica remains on high alert in the wake of an outbreak of measles in several countries, the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, says an estimated 169 million children worldwide missed out on the first dose of the vaccine for the highly contagious disease between 2010 and 2017. It says widening pockets of unvaccinated children have created a pathway to the measles outbreaks hitting several countries around the world. UNICEF Executive Director Henrietta Furr says there is a need to vaccinate every child in rich or poor countries alike. In the first 3 months of 2019, more than 110,000 measles cases were reported worldwide, up almost 300% from the same period last year. An estimated 110,000 people, most of them children, died from measles in 2017, a 22% increase from the year before. 2 doses of measles vaccine are essential to protect children from the disease. The planned liberalization of the public transport sector is now set for June 3. According to the Regulatory Agency for Public Transportation, the Transport Authority, the process, originally slated for May, had to be delayed due to the high volume of applications. In a statement, the agency said, quote, "In order to ensure that the processing of renewal applications is completed prior to the acceptance of new applications, the decision was taken to commence accepting new applications on June 3, 2019. End quote. Under the liberalization system, the Transport Authority will resume the acceptance of new applications for all categories of road licenses island-wide, except for hackney carriages in the Kingston Metropolitan Transport Region. This will result in the opening of 1,251 routes across the island to include 989 taxi routes and 262 rural stage carriage routes. State Minister in the Ministry of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture and Fisheries, Floyd Green, is leading a mission of Jamaica at the two-day 48th meeting of Council for Trade and Economic Development, which is being held in Georgetown, Guyana, starting today. The Jamaican delegation includes members of the trade unit at the Ministry of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture and Fisheries, as well as representatives from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. Green, in a release from the Agriculture Ministry, said, quote, "The meeting is significant in ensuring that trade and economic policies for the community are supportive of growth and development of each member state," end quote. The implementation of the CARICOM Single Market and Economy, intra-regional trade and external economic and trade relations will be among the areas of focus at the two-day meeting. COTED has primary responsibility for executing the trade and development agenda of CARICOM. 3 policemen who allegedly shot and killed a man in St. Catherine early Sunday morning before engaging an off-duty colleague in a high-speed chase and gunfight had been removed from frontline duties. At the end of the gunfight, law enforcement sources said Constable Rowan Williams, who was assigned to the Mobile Reserve Division, was dead and one of his colleagues in custody. The Independent Commission of Investigations, INDICOM, is probing whether the third cop, identified as Corporal Kirk Fraser, escaped after he was taken into hospital for treatment. Speaking about the incident, Acting Deputy Commissioner of Police Fitz Bailey acknowledged that Sunday's incident marked one of the darkest days for the JCF and the nation. The US dollar on Monday ended trading at Jamaican $134.53, up by 8 cents. According to the Bank of Jamaica's daily foreign exchange trading summary, the Canadian dollar ended trading at Jamaican $101.82, up from Jamaican $100.30, while the British pound sterling ended trading at Jamaican $171.61, down from $172.26. In regional news, here's a look at the top stories across the Caribbean.
Opposition leader Campbell Bissassa said the party filed the application because of biasness and unfairness.
On the 2015 election petitions, they have filed an application to set aside the judgment of the Court of Appeal in election petitions on the ground of bias and unfairness. The application urges the court to reopen proceedings and be the final arbiter of the electoral petitions. These are most important for our democracy.
After the UNC lost the 2015 election, it wanted fresh elections in 5 marginal constituencies: Tunapuna, St. Joseph, San Fernando West, Moruga Tableland, and Turco Sangre Grande. The party claimed the Election and Boundaries Commission overreached its authority by extending the voting time for the election by 1 hour. The Court of Appeal upheld the High Court ruling, which dismissed the UNC's petition.
The resolution was passed in the National Assembly on Friday, with the 33 government parliamentarians voting for it. The opposition PPP was absent from the sitting and later condemned the government for passing the motion.
Mr. Speaker, I close by saying the people of Linden and Guyana have lost a great man, a stalwart, a bold and courageous man. So I ask this Parliament, this National Assembly, that we direct an expression of its sympathy be conveyed to his sorrowing widow, children, grandchildren, and relatives.
Not realizing the motion was passed in the House, Sarah Ann Lynch, the United States ambassador, Friday evening itself lauded the government and law enforcement authorities for cooperation in the area of security. Addressing a welcome reception held at her Cummings Lodge East Coast Demerara residence, the diplomat spoke of collaboration, which saw the extradition of alleged murderer Troy Thomas to the U.S. last week. In the presence of Leader of the Opposition Barra Jagdeo, Prime Minister Moses Nakamoto, and other dignitaries, she noted that partnerships will continue on the security front. However, with the news of the passage of the motion, the U.S. Embassy is now questioning this collaboration. In a statement on Monday, the embassy said the resolution in the National Assembly is in direct contradiction to the efforts of security cooperation between the two countries. The embassy added that parliamentarians have now left a stain on their legacy as representatives of the Guyanese people and on their commitment to the rule of law. Kadir was sentenced to life in prison in the United States after being found guilty of plotting a 2007 terrorist attack at the John F. Kennedy International Airport in New York. He died in prison last June. Members of the National Assembly, therefore, chose to honor a man who conspired to kill innocent people from across the United States and around the world. This resolution is an insensitive and thoughtless act which demonstrates the National Assembly's disregard for the gravity of Kadir's actions, the embassy stated. In handing down Kadir's sentence, Judge Doro Irizarry said the offenses for which Mr. Kadir was convicted are about as serious as they come, short of murder. She said that he had taken part in a plan that will clearly cause devastation unimaginable. Kadir had maintained his innocence on the charges. His family members were in the parliamentary chambers for the passage of the motion and were duly recognized.
In sports, Sport Minister Olivia Grange has expressed regret upon hearing that the annual Jamaica International Invitational Meet has been cancelled because of insufficient sponsorships. But she has promised to work with the organizers to rectify the problems going forward. The organizing committee, headed by President of the Jamaica Athletics Administrative Association, Dr. Warren Blake, confirmed in a press release yesterday that the meet, which was scheduled for this weekend, has been cancelled. The release stated, quote, "The current reality is that the level of sponsorship received is insufficient to allow us to stage anything but a watered-down version of what is expected of the Jamaica International Invitational Meet," end quote. The meet, which has acquired the IAAF World Challenge status, has been used not only to showcase the nation's prowess in athletics, but as a means of earning for athletes who are transitioning from amateurism to professionalism. And that's the news. Thanks so much for watching PBCJ, the People's Station.